AI models using that data set in the future. But I thought we could just do our normal education new members conversation. One thing I am looking for, I have a couple groups I've connected with on the hub that I want to snail mail some finished Phoenix V2 hands to. In the intro to engineering class that I teach, one of the like 1 2 week projects is to assemble an e-NABLE hand in pairs. And we had been doing the V3s, but they don't fit the students as well. And we've moved to the V2s because they can actually like use them themselves a little easier with the way that the grip works on the palm. But we can also adapt any other shape to the palm because the V2, it's not the V3, it's like a cavity that you thermoform. The V2, it's like a base plate that screws in. It's like the main change. So I've got probably close to 10 V2 and V3 hands that are looking for a home. I think I found 2 spaces to mail them to, and really use them as touchstones to help activate local chapters. There's one in Brazil and one somewhere else. I think I'm going to send them each 2 or 3, but I still have a few more. You think of someone that could use, I really view them as they're less practical because they have the plastic joinery, less practical for an end user, but they're really good as a teaching tool or as a funding mechanism or to help a chapter that's just getting started as a reference model, any of those use cases. And the colors that the students make are awesome. We have them all like trade. They all print like 1 or 2 print beds, but then they trade colors, so they end up really interesting looking.
That's interesting, Ian. I may have a use for one or two. So funny enough, my sister-in-law here in Austin teaches at UT, University of
Cool.
Texas, and one of her fellow professors, and I'm just finding out this is all, I've been retired a week, so it was a
Yeah,
flood
yeah.
of information. He wants to talk to me about, he heard that I was learning about printing prosthetics for kids and people, and so he would like me to come in and talk to his engineering class that he's got a 3D printing lab set up for.
Super cool.
So I would like to learn about, how to represent well and then go talk to them.
Yeah.
And
And I'm happy
the,
to share what our assignment looks like too.
cool. That would be awesome.
For any of that, I'll put my email in here and we can always chat on email.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to Zoom with whoever, and we're fairly open source shop for most of our methods. If unless someone else is publishing it in data, we're happy to talk about it. Super cool, Tom. And so you're working on an assembly. I forget, what equipment are you printing with?
So I had started out with the Creator Ender 3, but I recently, I guess, retirement present. I've moved it to Bamboo. So I've got a
Yeah.
A1, and I lucked out and got one of the early H2T H2Ds.
Ooh, super cool.
It's a bad boy. And it's nice, so less filament waste, printing with, different colors of the same filament or whatnot. But I've been focusing on PETG, and that hand that I was creating for myself with version 3. I may look into that version 2 that you talked about, a little bit easier for the instead of thermal molding for my hand
Yep.
to understand the limitations of it. But
Super
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
And the H2D is definitely a hot rod, much bigger build plate. Super exciting. I haven't seen one
Yeah.
in the wild yet.
Yeah. It's nice. It's quite a large volume. Yeah.
Yep.
350 versus the 250.
Yep. Super cool. Well, yeah, and I've uh, been printing on the Enders for a very long time, but at home have moved to the Bamboos to just get things done, which in a pinch and a deadline is really helpful.
Oh, you ain't kidding. They're so forgiving. It's definitely a print and forget kind of thing.
Yep. And I know Jonathan has become like the core technical resource for e-NABLE, just really being prolific on the hub, connecting a lot of folks into really great resources.
Well, and kudos to him. I reached out and was talking to him yesterday on the other call while we were waiting for the health portion, and he was a plethora of information.
Jonathan, how are your machines doing?
Good. So I actually started a new job in the last couple months, so I have been printing a lot on the Creality K1 Max.
Cool.
I recently started doing I talked to Tom about this yesterday, but took up some co-PA, so it's PA6 and 6.6 co-blended together, made by Polymaker.
Super
Um,
cool.
I've been using that a lot. Um, it's kind of a pain because it likes to absorb moisture, but um, it's awesome for manufacturing stuff. Metal on metal contact. This is a good product. I like it.
Super cool. Yeah, so it's nylon 6 and 6.6
Yeah, correct.
combo. Super cool. And then nylon's a super hydroscopic, so you can't leave it open.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, not too expensive either.
Yeah, I was surprised. I had worked with like the Nylon X from Matter Hackers before, and that stuff is expensive. It's unbelievable qualities and stuff like that, but it adds up quick when you're talking about, going from $20, $30 a roll per
Right.
kilogram from ABS or PLA to talking about $100 a kilogram, give or
Yep.
take.
No, super cool. And you're just printing that on like does it need an enclosure or
It does have an enclosure. If they advertise it as not needing it.
cool.
I haven't tried it without it, but like here's one of the parts I printed last night. It comes out awesome.
Nice.
It's
Yeah,
just
it
this
looks
little
like
landing pad.
acetal. It looks like it's made of acetal.
Yeah, that's what it feels like too.
You can see the shine on it. That's really cool. Yeah, I should definitely try some of this out. I have not tried it. Are there any other polymaker materials that you're excited about right now?
I also got their PA12 carbon fiber,
Yeah, I see that here too.
which is I have one here. I tried to I had a little bit of glue stick left over on the build plate from printing some other stuff.
Hmm.
And when I tried to wipe it off, it literally ripped apart my wipe. So
Wow.
there's like uh Kleenex residue type of thing on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it looks kind of funny, but it is so rigid, it's insane, and it has like a metallic sound almost when you hit it together.
Wow.
Um, the closest thing I could like compare it to is like the pedals on a bicycle,
Right.
where it's just unbelievably rigid. So that's another cool one. It's, again, up there a little bit in price, and I don't know how easy it actually prints. It printed just great for me on the K1 Max, but non-enclosed printers, I'm not sure how it'd do.
Cool. These are great tips. I definitely want to try out that Copier. Very cool. We're in our public makerspace, we're a PLA shop. And we've moved through a bunch of different vendors over time. We're basically just playing with stuff that's as hydroscopic as it can get. We have a burn rate of about a kilogram a day.
Mhm.
So our stuff doesn't stay open too long, but sometimes like a color that people don't want, we end up having to dehydrate. And we've got a couple of dehydrators. But in our engineering space and in our backroom production spaces, we'll run any material. So we're mostly in those people still start with PLA because it's cheap and accessible. And then we have a couple like PET Gs that we like and a couple different TPUs of different durometers. And that's probably like 90% of our printing. The
Sure.
PLA is definitely more than half. But the TPUs have gotten super popular because we have a little bit more squishy one and a little bit more rigid one that have been really helpful, especially for like chassis for robot type things, interfaces that need a little bit of dampening.
Okay. Yeah, I'm lucky enough with my main printer at home is the Voron Trident. I
Running the
know
Voron,
Ian,
yeah.
yeah, Ian, you and I have talked about that quite a bit, but there's space under the bed that you can use to store stuff. So
Oh,
I actually
dehydrate it right
designed,
there.
yeah, and then I designed a filament holder that sits behind the bed. There's just enough room in between the back edge of the enclosure, so you can print right from inside the chamber and everything. But
That's cool.
um, unfortunately, the K1 Max I'm printing with at work doesn't have that. So we recently got the Sunlu Fila Dryer S4.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it works well. It's nice that it gets a lot hotter than most of the other commercially
Yeah,
available ones.
cool. This is good to check out too. I see it here. Behind me, I've got two Comgros for running an A1 in my office. So the Comgros feed right into the AMS,
Sure.
but they were just like the cheapest possible. This looks really nice. It'll do four rolls in it as well. Put that link in here. Love hearing about the new tech. Does it say a temperature it'll get to? But that's really nice to have four spools in one.
Yeah, and there's actually a modification you can print out yourself that sits on the top like a new cap, and you can actually put another four spools in it. I
Oh,
haven't
cool.
printed it or tried it, but I was seeing a lot of people recommend that, and then you can have eight,
8. Wow.
which
That's super
that's
cool.
huge.
Yeah, we're headed into the time of the year here in Boston where there's a lot more humidity.
Yeah.
We solved a lot of our failure rates just by either taking slightly filament that dries out slower or using the dryers. Has
hmm
stopped most, like half of our fails were coming from super brittle filament.
hmm
And with what you're assembling, Tom, are you running it in a particular flavor of PLA, flavor of PETG?
I'm using a lot of the get the sales going for the Bamboo Labs filament
Oh
since
yeah.
it's kind of tailored for that. But I
Yeah.
do Overture
Yep.
and also the Sunlu,
Yep.
a few different ones. And like you said, I've never had any issues. Well, I've had a lot of issues, but a lot of them went away once I started actively drying.
Yeah.
So I
Totally.
store filament. There was a neat thing up on Maker's World for these cereal boxes that you could store your, or you still have filament available. And then I'm using alumina silica pellets. It's something that you can dry out in the oven. Um,
Oh, cool.
and so you can, it might be a project for your students. So this guy had a great little snippet on YouTube. You can make, get aluminum tubing from Amazon for cheap, cut lengths that will go right into the holes on the spools, and
Mm.
then fill it with activated alumina. I'm saying it right. It's rechargeable, and then you use JB Weld and metal uh, window screen and the cut ends for it for the tubes,
Yep.
and that way they're permanent fixtures. And once they kind of get saturated, you just pop them in the oven at
That's really
450
cool.
for for 2 hours. Yeah, but each spool's got one of those in there, and then this cereal box is airtight, and it's
Yep.
got a little roller assembly, so you actually can feed the filament out through it itself.
That's super cool. Really
So much
clever.
stuff out there. Yeah.
No, these little mods are what makes the biggest difference in throughput and uptime. If you find a link to that, definitely send it to me. I'd love to try it out.
I will. I will.
We try out everything.
Well, that's where you get some of the greatest ideas, right? The word of
Yeah,
mouth and sharing. Absolutely.
totally. No, and that's what I get from these meetings the most is also understanding like once we have a bigger group, it's good to hear like what people's challenges are, where their imagination is, uh, vendors they're using for machines and tools, consumables.
Well, that raises a question I was talking to Jonathan about trying to figure out, where the best space for me to kind of plug in or begin learning more in depth so I could plug in. I've got some access to travel abilities. As far as if I understand it right, some of the biggest challenges are follow up for, there's a lot of people who can print hands and different appendages and all that.
Yeah.
But as far as the follow up and the kind of background, the backside programmatics in
Yeah,
case a child grows,
totally.
but
No, and you want to be making again and again and refining it. And as they live in it, realizing what the challenges are. That's the highest barrier. I would say that if you're interested, we just heard from this group in Saratoga that you could connect with, and they've connected with Peter from Uganda, who's been fairly active in the forums, who has upwards of 300 people with limb difference in his community. And so the Saratoga group is connecting with him to produce a couple hundred is their goal, I think, hands. But we just approved $1,000 for them in the previous meeting today, which is going to be for them to travel to that community in Uganda and get boots on the ground, face to face, understand a little more, and then also hopefully help them with some of their own production and customization on site.
that's great. Things like that I could possibly help out once I kind of get my sea legs. I was the senior defense official for Burundi, and I worked with Uganda
Cool.
training like 13 battalions of peacekeepers to go up to
Wow.
Mogadishu to help out. So I'm kind of
Unbelievable.
plugged. I was plugged in. It's been a few years now,
Yeah.
but I still know the area and all that. So
Yeah, and if
there
you
might
have
be
local
some.
contacts or
Right.
like you understand the language, like that would be amazing.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
So it's the Saratoga chapter of e-NABLE, and they're on the hub. If you
I
look,
wrote that down.
if you search for Saratoga on the hub, the keyword, I think you'll find it.
Okay. Great.
And it sounds like they're just getting started. So a great time to talk to them about support too. I bet even like planning and logistics, there's going to be a lot to talk about.
That's huge. Yeah. Cool.
And I'm always wondering, like, what are they using for their project management tools? Like, how do they track all
Right.
this in-house?
Yes. Yeah.
I really love the governance aspect of once you get into having a community of people working with a makerspace, working with clients. There's a lot to project manage.
Right.
No, but it's great that you have that experience. That's like an invaluable thing. I think that's the biggest disconnect is from the makers to the recipients, with such a global movement that e-NABLE is, and then showing up and having follow through makes a tremendous difference in those relationships.
That's where I'm hoping to make this kind of a multi-year effort and be plugged in for quite a while. Once
Yeah,
the dust settles from the honeydew list of things
yeah,
to catch up on at the
totally,
house. I just
totally.
finished building a fence today, so
That's cool. Are you printing any accessories for any of those house improvements?
I've done. We had a wobbly chair, so I had to make a little boot for it, of course,
Yeah.
and that worked. Just little simple things, but
That's the
yeah,
coolest the coolest thing for me about this tech is once you start living with it, you see all these opportunities to like make
right.
little things. And I also think that's with e-NABLE, you start wanting to do the entire upper limb assistive device. We all get in for that. But then you realize what they need is a better doorknob. And then you start realizing the
Right.
problem isn't with the upper limb difference, the problem is with the built environment. And how can we use these tools to affect the built environment?
Very
And,
cool.
and I think that
There's
with some of these more like actually starting up services in the communities that have the recipients with limb difference who need it, if you can get into that conversation, that's like I think that's the highest impact. Is not just making a hand for someone, not just making and iterating on hands for someone, but giving them the tools, not just to make the hands themselves, but to realize that they need to actually change their built environment.
a whole teach a person to fish. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that's a theme in e-NABLE broadly. You're getting in at a great time when the community is thinking more about open source assistive devices broadly. Not just prostheses, but all of the accessories that attach anything you need to accomplish daily tasks in your life. Oh, and there we go. Uh, Jonathan's got the advisor for that chapter.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, I saw that.
So he might just refer you to somebody else, but I think he was a heart surgeon or something like that. He's kind of overseeing the Saratoga stuff, working with Uganda. So he'd be the one to reach out to if you're interested in getting involved, I think.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's so cool. I got to go visit them in Saratoga. I'm up in Saratoga a couple times a year. I got some family up there.
Is that
So
Saratoga, New York, or where am I thinking?
it's got to be Saratoga, New York. That was maybe I'm wrong. I was thinking Saratoga, New York.
No, I
Cool.
believe
No.
it's California.
Oh, it's California. Never mind.
Oh,
Then
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
there.
So I think
Other
their
side.
their e-NABLE chapter is technically called NorCal e-NABLE, I believe.
Ah, yep, I'll find them.
Okay.
Yep, here they are. Oh, too bad. That's the whole NorCal region is huge. Right, and it's their FTC, right? It's their robotics competition group.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and they're ranked very well. Very impressive.
Yeah, if I remember right, they went
Hmm.
to the worldwide, whatever the worldwide competition was for that, and I think
Yeah.
they took second or third or something like that.
Well, and they're right outside of San Jose, so I would imagine they have a lot of tech resources.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think our closest contact there is the San Jose State College Makerspace is really cool. Yeah, here I'll put in what I think this is the team that is doing this.
Got it. Okay.
or there's the tournament that the team hosts. Cool. Well, I'm gonna have to run in another 5 minutes or so. Is there anything else to discuss? And you all can continue on the conversation, or we can decide to end early too.
Well, you guys have been great answering my questions. I want to delve back into the website, kind of get certified with my
Get the badge.
Phoenix. And Sarah, you've been great, and with Jonathan Selvig, all you guys have been great. Just kind of start getting involved. So
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. Tom, if you have any issues submitting the badge request once you get stuff done, let me know. I do all the approvals for that stuff and whatever. So,
thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that.
mhm.
And I'm definitely gonna get some of these new Polymaker materials to try out this summer. They look awesome.
And Ian, I'll shoot you an email.
Cool. Yeah, and we can connect. My, other than project management, pedagogy. We can build this into more coursework. Uh, the theory of change there is if we get young engineers using these tools early, then hopefully they can think about them in their careers and do more social impact making.
Absolutely, yeah, and affect some change. That's great.
Yeah. No, so definitely I feel like every minute you spend in those conversations is like a huge amplifier for things that come out of it later.
When I've got family and friends ask me what do I do with my 3D printing, and I said, well, I'm trying to get into this printing, you know, I don't know what the proper terminology is, but basically prosthetics.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can do that with a printer? Then their eyes light
Yeah.
up. They're like, wow, I'm like, yeah, yeah.
No, it's a great hook. And it's like a lens into like huge assistive technology conversations.
Right. There's so many possibilities. Yes.
With our engineering program here at Brandeis, we were looking for other engineering schools. We're just starting. So our incoming class won't be till next year, our first class.
Oh, wow.
So this is
Wow.
a new major for us. Our school's like 75, 77 years old. Uh, and we have R1 research engine with like research science labs. They did a bunch of the human genome here, 4 Nobel Prizes in the last 10 years here. And it's a very small school. But we also have a liberal arts college. They're like smushed together with like a
Mhm.
business school, social policy school. But there's been no engineering for that 77
Wow.
years.
Wow.
So they just approved this new major. We were looking at like what are our community values, what are big problems in the world when we were starting this. And we look at some other groups that do like Boston College is just ahead of us. They're graduating their first class this week of engineering. So they're like 6 years ahead of us. They're doing a human-centered design focus. We looked at a lot of peers like Olin College of Engineering, an amazing model right around the corner from us. I'm really inspired by all the work they do. And they do some bio-inspired design for some of their like themes. So we decided that for us, what we're going to wrap our program in is the design spine that runs through all the project classes from first year to senior year
Mm.
of design to repair the world.
Right.
And I think this is two things. This is that bias towards doing positive things. And while I'm building the first intro, just the first class, we're focusing on open source assistive technology and using e-NABLE as one of the big touchstones.
That's
We're
great.
also about open source hardware. We want to use open source tools for software and hardware as much as possible. Uh, but in the future, it's also like a recruiting tactic to get really high quality, world-class professors to want to work in our ecosystem because we can target this engine at other big problems like water crisis, refugee crisis, like so many different things we can put under that design spine and build things with.
That's awesome. So
But
I got a great
e-NABLE is the
vision.
hook. e-NABLE is how we got into that. Uh, and it's also one of the when we started our makerspace here 11 years ago. We're in June, in 2 weeks, we're turning 11. Uh, we're one of the
That's
first
awesome.
like library makerspaces in a school. But when we were starting, uh, 11 years ago this month, I met John Scholl at a maker conference and he was showing the hands off. He had a cyborg beast, and it had awesome hardware. It was like 150% scale with like nice metal fittings.
Right.
And it had like a fishing line. It was like super strong. And he handed that around the room, and I was like, this is what we need to start with. So
That's
it's taken
awesome.
us from that room with John handing a hand around to starting our major next year. It's been like a central thread for us.
That's fantastic. That's what a great accomplishment. So, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, anything we can we're trying to do this with other schools too. Like we talked to BC and Olin, so we don't make their mistakes. We make different mistakes. And if
There
we
you
can,
go.
with these new members, if we can help them not make the same mistakes we've made, and as the tools get better, it's just like more and more interesting stuff you can get into.
Absolutely. Well, that's thank you guys for your time today.
Definitely
Yeah,
appreciate you showing up and having the conversation. I've got a few new products to try out. And we'll be back next month on the 12th. And we're moving to Thursdays for all of our e-NABLE meetings.
heard that Sarah was talking about that, so that's
Yep.
great.
Cool. We'll
Yeah.
see you at a future Thursday.
Sounds good. Well, have a good day there, Ian.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks,
Jonathan,
Sarah.
Jonathan, you're moving the whole ship. I can't believe how much you're doing. If I can ever help, at me.
Yeah, of course.
Have a great day, everyone.